the actors were not always on wires. A lot of the time they were on chair rigs or belly rigs that Martin created.
Hey,
Martin,
here we
hi.
go.
So good to see
you. Oh, good to see you.
Okay.
It's great to
Nice.
see. I just want to say it's great to see Markus too. I just see him a lot, which I'm very lucky about. My enthusiasm wasn't as equal. Sorry.
So, guys, it's very an honor and a pleasure for us. I want just to introduce you really quickly yourself, or if you prefer to add anything, please do later. We have the director, executive producer Michelle MacLaren, known for work on Breaking Bad, The Deuce, Shining Girls, episodes of Game of Thrones, Better Call Saul, and many others. Markus, which is a long-time member also of Filmmakersworld, and is known for Independence Day, Resurgence, I Origin, Bliss, and Red Notice. And Martin Goeres is an action specialist with an extensive experience in stunt and special effects, and known for work on Mission Impossible, Wonder Woman, Matrix 4, and recently stunt coordinator and action specialist for Constellation. So guys, feel free to add anything if you want.
I'll just add that Martin was also our special effects coordinator.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay, so great. Thanks for correcting me. So the first question, I guess, is for you, Michelle. What is Constellation? Let's introduce this wonderful TV series to the audience, to our community. And also, And also, I'm curious, what was the original inspiration behind the creation of the series?
Well, first of all, I guess I would describe it as a character-driven thriller with a sci-fi element. And Peter Harness actually came up with the concept and the idea, our writer and our creator. And when I first read it, the thing that I love the most about it is, at the heart of it, it's really about a relationship between a mother and daughter. And it's really about, what would you do if you woke up one day and your world looked the same, but it wasn't the same world?
People who have been to space, they see things.
You saw something that was not there. You were under enormous stress. It happens.
I saw what I saw.
Another question is for you, both of you, director and DOP. How did you collaborate to establish the visual tone of the TV series? Because I know Markus and you worked closely to establish the look for the whole series, because you worked on the first two and then you defined for the next episodes.
Markus, I'll start, then you take over. I'll just say that one of the things that we did right from the beginning is Markus and I collaborated on creating a lookbook for everybody, which presented the tone and the style for the show. And we did a lot of research on actual real ISS footage. It was very important to us to make the show very grounded and realistic as possible, even though there is a fantastical element to it. And so a lot of our research was real life research from actual astronauts. And we had a consultant, an astronaut consultant, Scott Kelly, who is amazing. And we pulled on a lot of real life images from space. And then we also pulled on some, obviously the whole thing doesn't take place in space. And so we really wanted to create a style and a tone that had a voyeuristic element to it, a very subtle one that made you feel like, what if you're being watched, and what if you're being watched by your other self, so to speak. And a little bit of a, what's the right word I'm looking for? There's something else going on. Oh my gosh, what am I'm losing the word here, but a conspiracy element to it. So I guess there was somewhat of a noir feeling to it. But I'm going to let Markus jump in here and add his brilliance.
I think that's a good point. We always try to convey the sense of somebody observing. So we used a lot of handheld, almost like voyeuristic shots and work with reflections. Especially like when we built a set for the ISS, like the real space station, for example, they use double or triple layer glass for like safety and protection. So we really embraced this like scenes where Numi is alone on the ISS, seeing herself in the reflection, but you always see a double image of her, giving a hint at there's another version of her somewhere. And going back to the astronaut references, right? We had this fantastic consultant, Scott Kelly. He's a real, very experienced astronaut, and he gave us access to some of his personal videos, how he filmed himself on the ISS. There was a big influence because I felt like watching so many movies and shows that have been shot in space. You usually see a very perfect floating movie camera. And I think we wanted an aesthetic that feels more like grounded. So I always told our camera operators, as if we were floating in zero gravity, documenting what's happening to Numi's character, right? So we experimented a lot, especially with Martin. He built this amazing wire rig so we could float. Martin would sometimes float operating a camera. And we mixed techniques with gimbals and handheld and Steadicam to create an aesthetic that feels like we are also part of that crew in zero gravity.
I'll just add there and then I'll toss this off to Martin, that we also wanted to create a sense of claustrophobia. We wanted to make Jo feel that she was all alone up there, but we also wanted to give the audience a sense of geography. So we'd be very intimate with her, very subjective, and then we would jump back to an objective angle so you could get a feeling of her confinement, so to speak. So what it meant was Andy Nicholson, our production designer, built life-size portions of the ISS, and then we would peel it away like an onion, just enough to get the cameras or the lights in there. And one of the things that we did was we took off the roof, and Martin can speak to this, but built this incredible rig that we could move in two directions. But the actors were not always on wires. A lot of the time they were on chair rigs or belly rigs that Martin created. So I'm going to hand it over to Martin because he's the expert on this.
Basically, the biggest challenge for us was when I got the first version of the script, amazing script by Peter Hannes. I was both blown away, but on the other hand, I thought wow, I counted roughly way over 200 rigging setups, and this on a series level time constriction. And so we had to come up with a very good technical solution to be more flexible than normally in stunt rigging. Otherwise, you would set up something weeks before and then rehearse that and then deliver that on the day. So we created this rig, which is kind of, we call it Spider Tracks. It's kind of a huge, massive CNC milling machine, like a portal rig, which you can move rigging points all over the 1,000 square meter studio area and be flexible on the day. That gave us a good basis to rig from. And then, of course, we had additional technicalities, each rigging, but we still could move actors around corners. We could just quickly decide to move everything more to the right or to the left. And that was all done by winches. And the good thing is with classical 3D rigging, you have those lines coming in from a very unforgivable angle, and they cut away the whole set. And now Michelle wanted really to have all the real set there. And of course, then we had to come from the top through a very narrow alley. And this system works like that. So we have wires come from the top, and we keep all those wonderful sets, and we have the actors actually interacting with the surrounding and surfaces.
It's really, oh, sorry, yeah, go, Markus.
Oh yeah, like you said, we had this amazing set. Andy Nicholson is an extremely talented production designer, and at his art department, they pulled off miracles. It's so authentic how they replicated the ISS, and we shot with anamorphic lenses, and we wanted the dynamic handheld camera, so we wanted to use our real set as much as possible. And what Martin described, traditionally in big Hollywood films, you would rip open the set and it becomes very technical, but his system allowed us to really be surgical. We say somebody has to float here in the foreground. The rest of the set we can keep intact. Or sometimes we build really smart rigs, like floating, like a great collaboration between our grip department and stunt. Sometimes we would put an actor on a dolly and you put special mounting points so the actors could perform. And it's quite an interesting ballet, right, between actors, stunts, and camera work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that it was an incredible collaboration between everybody, between the actors, the stunt people who are sometimes puppeteering the actors, and the camera operators, and which sometimes Markus would grab a camera too, and Martin, and depending on what we were doing, but we had these amazing camera operators, and we learned every time we did a new setup, we would learn and we'd evolve of what the best thing to do in this moment was, because of course the actors also had to act, and Numi became very, very good at miming. So once we sold the idea that she was floating in space, we would often take her off the rigs, take her off the wires. And as soon as we got into this, she was miming it while acting. I mean, she's got incredibly strong stomach muscles. She can do a 10-minute plank.
I would also add to this, Michelle, that we all found out actually that it's so important that we choose to switch those tools, the approaches, as much as possible. So even I'm still so thankful and happy that you fought for this vertical set, because that gave everything such another level of disguising the world's gravity, always going in the same direction of the set. If you have one set which is built in a different way, in a different angle, then you suddenly you're not sure anymore that the audience is not distracted by a obvious pattern of approach.
Exactly.
I think, right, it's important to us too that, like, not showing off zero gravity, but it should feel natural, and you should focus on the story and the acting, like not doing this impossible camera moves.
Not doing tricks.
Exactly. One of the things we learned from Scott Kelly was that you have to move slow in space because there's no resistance. If you push off hard, you can ricochet and you can seriously hurt yourself. So doing action slowly in space is challenging, to keep that exciting and realistic. And we really wanted the audience to quickly understand how they move, how they stabilize themselves. So we had those shots of them hooking on their feet or grabbing their hands, so that when you are tight and they're vertical, because they don't Superman in the ISS that much, maybe if you're in a hurry. So we tried to stay as vertical as much as possible, but we needed to sell that they're actually floating. And a lot of the time it was the actors and the cameramen, moving opposite each other, giving that floating feeling. It was as I said before, it was an incredible collaboration.
But I think it's also great that Scott gave this input because naturally, as an action guy, I would have thought, okay, we need to float and do spectacular shots of her floating somehow. But the reality is, if we want to stay authentic, everyone up there is literally trying to tuck in as much as he can. You're not floating around all the time, because he explained to us that it's inconvenient. If you just let yourself go, you're gonna go against equipment. You're gonna be with your face in a laptop or somewhere, which is on the wall. So you have to tuck in and stabilize. And therefore, I think that was amazing how you managed to always keep that also in authentic ways.
And Markus had to light in those confinements. So Markus, you should talk about that because it's so interesting what you did.
Yeah. So we pretty much built almost all the lighting into the set, right? Because we knew we want to move the camera freely and give the actors freedom to move around. So actually, I was doing a lot of research how to light the ISS, especially all we know usually when there's a live broadcast, something like this from the ISS, it's very brightly lit, so you see them properly. But we had so many scenes in the dark, like at night, or in the story, the ISS is running out of power. How would it look like? Because it's one thing on a script to say it's pitch black, right? But you still have to connect with the character and show the world. So there's amazing resources now from NASA that they providing 4K virtual flights through the ISS, and Scott Kelly's pictures helped a lot to get a sense for what feels grounded, but also, of course, we're telling a story, and a fictional story, we want to dramatize it a bit. But one more time about floating the camera, usually, maybe at first I thought, if an astronaut would film other astronauts, they're perfectly floating in the air, but they actually don't, because they're in floating, but you still feel the handheld shake. So what Scott Kelly told me, what astronauts do if they want to do the perfect dolly shot in zero gravity, they use their phone, for example, and then they push it off and let go. but float with it, but don't touch it, so you don't get the handheld shake. So all these little tips and tricks, like we try to create an aesthetic like this.
Mummy?
I remember, Markus, you mentioned among all these challenges also some spectacular FPV shots. Do you want to add anything? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so like from previous movies, I like really explored using FPV, right, for motion pictures basically. And when I studied hours and hours of footage of astronauts filming. They document their own experiments on the ISS or filming themselves, sometimes goofing around. Like, how can we create this aesthetic? And like I said, we try to mix different techniques so the audience forgets about how it was shot and hopefully lets go and watches the story, right? And one of those techniques is we brought in these fantastic drone pilots from Skynamic, and we used an FPV drone, which are like race drones, regular race drones. They're usually flying outdoor very fast, but we use them to fly through our ISS set to create this sensation of zero gravity. And they had to be very precise because some of those hatches are like very narrow airlocks and are going around curves. And I think then you see a POV and maybe cut back to Numi. I hope all these techniques help to make it work. And then there's a showdown, maybe, or Michelle, if you want to talk about Morocco, the landing site, how we use drones and FPV drones there.
Well, I was just going to say that the Skynamic did an amazing job. They were in Morocco with us. They were inside the ISS, and they were in northern Finland in the Arctic with us. And this drone was, for me, it was game changing. I mean, I think for all of us, because it could act as a dolly, act as a drone. It was amazing. You know, when you're dealing with snow that you can't walk through and you can fly over it, you're all of a sudden getting to do shots that you wouldn't normally do, and it was really great in very low temperatures and very hot temperatures. But what I was just going to add to what Markus was saying is that when we thought, okay, let's fly it through the ISS, we used those shots more than we imagined that we would use them, because they were really cool. They became very cool POV shots, or very cool establishing shots, or an objective angle to give geography, whatever it was. But we used it on multiple episodes, and it was a great thing. In Morocco, it allowed us. I mean, one of the interesting things to me was when. The many interesting things is when the Soyuz lands, it's coming down really fast, even though it has a parachute. And so it has rockets at the bottom of it that shoot off about 3 or 4 feet before it hits the ground to slow it down. And there's an explosion, and it looks like the whole thing blows up. And so Martin actually set up a real life-size explosion in Morocco, and we could not let anybody get close to it. So we had to have our cameras pretty far back. And so we actually used the drone. I mean, Markus, correct me if I'm here, but we used the drone here just as one of the cameras. But the nice thing is about this drone is and we didn't actually do it for this shot, but you can use it as a regular camera, and then you can hand it off and it goes into drone mode or, Steadicam mode or whatever it is. It's one of the most versatile tools I've seen in the business.
Yeah. It's the Inspire 3 drone, which was brand new at that time. I think it was in pre-release, and it's usually meant to fly in the air, but it has an amazing stabilized gimbal. So for some shots, I took it in my hands and walked around with it like a regular gimbal or Steadicam. And then there's shots where we can let it go and flies away and does the most amazing crane shot in a way, like an impossible crane shot.
Yeah, we used it for some really impossible shots. I just want to add Stefan Sauno. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, please.
I was just going to say Stefan Sauno is an amazing Steadicam operator, and I don't want to take away anything from what he did and Sebastian, because these operators were absolutely amazing. And obviously they can't fly in the air, so the drone was able to step in and do incredible things for us that we couldn't physically do. Yeah.
One more thing about the drone. So we are in Finland, like the opening of episode 1, we had this amazing aerial establishers, and it is so freezing cold. I can't imagine, like minus 30 degrees Celsius. So most equipment wouldn't even operate. We had actually, our production was amazing, supportive. They hired a cold truck for like a week before we went to Finland. So every department could test their equipment to see if it will work and operate properly under these temperatures. So let's say the sound department would bring their microphones. Even our department would bring certain props in there to see if they would work. And obviously the camera department brought the cameras and lenses. But this drone was amazing. It was so cold, and the drone flies fairly high up sometimes and fast. So it's even colder for the drone than for us on the ground. And at some point, I thought it's impossible how we're still going at that speed. And I slowly saw the ice crystals building on the front of the lens, and the drone pilot said, "Oh, I think we should bring it down and clean it." I said, "No, this is the most amazing diffusion filter ever." And it was a magical moment, and I think it made it into the show.
I remember you were so excited about this shot. So I took a note about that. There's a question.
It's true frost filter. You know, there's frost diffusion filters. This was the real deal. Ice crystals.
I don't know if you are able to reply, because it's an FPV question specifically. Are you using the volume screen with plates? We don't have the responsible of the drone shots, so just wondering in case you, Markus, can reply, but if not, we can maybe ask to the pilot to reply in the comments.
Ferdinand, you can find it, I think, Ferdigrapher on Instagram. You can ask him questions after this, or I don't know the exact specs on the FPV drone we used. We had a red Komodo. Our main cameras were like red V-Raptors, so the red Komodos would cut seamlessly. And especially on this, there's like this big scene, landing scene at end of episode 2, where we had like helicopters and lots of vehicles approaching the landing site where they think Numi's character will land. And that's where we had an exciting mix of like camera operators in those vehicles, like Jeeps, handheld on the ground. We had a helicopter, we had somebody filming handheld out of the helicopter. We had the FPV drone zipping in between the vehicles. And then for some shots, we had the bigger inspired drone doing more like traditional aerial. And it all like, it's amazing how you all cut this together, Michelle, right? There was so many moving pieces to make this bring together, but it's a really great sequence now.
Well, I mean, it was such an incredible collaboration. The members of the Moroccan army helped us, and Martin went out in the desert and rehearsed with these guys driving, and over and over and over again. They were very good at driving in formation, and so we had so much to do and so little time to do it. And by the time we got to the part where we were chasing the cars with the drones as they were going through the desert, we were in this location that had only so big. It was quite big, but if you got too far to the end, you went off a cliff. So these guys would just repeat the action in both directions. And Martin, I'm so grateful that you took them out earlier and rehearsed with them, because when we got to shoot it, it went off like clockwork, with the helicopter. As Markus said, there were so many elements. And we also had that really cool camera car, Markus, I forget what it was called, where there was a crane outside the camera car but we were in the desert. So it looked like something out of a George Miller film, so it was really, it was cool.
This isn't madness. I need to work out why they're doing this.
Curiosity killed the cat.